Hello, I'm David Hughes. Welcome to Your Perfect Body, the podcast of the Esoteric Teaching community. Today's selection is an essay entitled, "What is Consciousness?" We call the esoteric teaching the Vedic science of consciousness. All right then, what is consciousness? We have been going around this point, but so far have not really defined it succinctly. It had to wait for several other concepts to be established. Consciousness is, as we have asserted, the primary symptom of the soul or living entity. But what is consciousness? How does it work? Consciousness is the sum total of perception. There are two main components of perception: experience and meaning. Experience and meaning are related as content and context. Our experience is the content, and the meaning we give it is the context. The combination of these two is consciousness. Experience is our perception. There are so many different perceptics. The bodily senses are commonly analyzed as sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. But in reality, there are many more perceptics, such as kinesthesia, temperature, blood sugar, stomach acidity, energy flow, and too many more to list here. These are perceptics of the gross body. And then there are the perceptics of the subtle body, composed of mind, intelligence, and false ego. The perceptics of mind are emotion, memory, ideation, symbolic encoding and decoding, association, categorization, etc. Perceptics of intelligence include discrimination, prediction, cause and effect, various types of logical analysis, etc. Perceptics of the ego include identity, social rank and connections, the quest for perfection of the self, and so on. This is our experience. The other component of perception is the meaning and value that we assign to our experience. And of the two components of perception, meaning is by far the more important. Two individuals can have exactly the same experience, yet assign entirely different meanings and values to it. If you doubt this, drop into your local court or look at one of those court TV shows and listen to two witnesses describe the same traffic accident, financial transaction, or altercation. You would think they were describing two completely different experiences. And so they are. So the meaning we assign to our experience makes a far more lasting impression than the experience itself. And where does meaning come from? It comes from our ontology. There's that word again. I'm not going to give up until you get it. What the heck is an ontology? You have an ontology. Everyone does. Your ontology is the 1,000,001 facts that form the context you bring to every experience. It is the database that you use to describe and predict reality. Consciousness and ontology are inextricably intertwined. Everyone knows that objects, when dropped, fall down. Dogs bark and fish swim. Babies cry and women change their minds for no apparent reason. We also know that we prefer vanilla ice cream, or chocolate or whatever, shave the right side of our face first, and put our pants on one leg at a time. Some people are cat people, some are dog people, and so on. Altogether, this collection of millions of small stories forms our ontology, our picture of reality and how the world works. These are all categories of perception, and our experience is the substance of perception. Experience is the content, and ontology is the context. Experience is perception, and ontology provides the meaning of that perception. Together, they compose and define our consciousness. But the funny thing about all this is that our stories determine the value we assign to our experiences. And if we do not have any stories about a particular type of experience, then we tend to assign little or no value at all to it. The effect of this is almost as though he never had the experience at all. I have seen it. One person is standing in the temple, looking at the deity, shaking and crying, having an intense religious experience. His friend is standing next to him, bored. Now, who do you think will remember and value that experience more? In fact, if you wait a few days and ask the bored one, he may not even remember being in the temple. The experience wasn't important, so he dismissed it, whereas the other person will remember the same experience, the same moment, for the rest of his life. This is ontology. If you question the person who had the intense experience, you will find his collection of stories about the meaning of a temple is far bigger, more exciting, and interesting than the bored one. In other words, if you have no stories about a particular experience in your ontology, even if you have that experience, you are likely not to even notice that you had it, or to forget it soon afterward. Now, here's the really strange thing. Human beings are conscious entities, but in most people's ontology, there are no, or very few, stories about consciousness itself. So they tend to miss the experience of being conscious. The same goes for spiritual life. People are spiritual beings, so they have spiritual experiences all the time. But because they have a very small collection of stories about spiritual experiences, they may not even know they are having spiritual experiences. Some people may even have a story in their ontology that says, "Spirituality is bunk. I don't have any spiritual experiences." And so, naturally, they don't. Just like if you are convinced that you can't learn French, well, then you can't. On the contrary, no amount of effort spent trying to teach you French will do any good. This is ontology. So your ontology acts, in some respects, like a radio. The ether is full of radio stations, hundreds and thousands of them, all broadcasting at the same time. But a radio can pick up only one or two at a time, according to how we tune it. Similarly, the environment is full of different kinds of material and spiritual phenomena. Our ontology can tune certain of them in or out. An AM radio cannot pick up FM stations at all. Correspondingly, a materialistic ontology will render us completely insensitive to spiritual experiences. To experience the full richness of life, we must have a transcendental ontology. Now, the interesting thing about ontology is, of course, that you can change it. People pay teachers and priests and therapists and self-help gurus and motivational speakers big bucks to help them change their ontology. Changing ontologies is a big business. But because nobody wants to learn what an ontology is or how to change it themselves, they hide their real business behind a smokescreen of other terms like education, training, enlightenment, adjustment, self-improvement, yada yada. How do you change your ontology? First of all, by wanting to. Then you can hear from and associate with people who have an ontology similar to the one you would like to have. That is what we're doing in the esoteric teaching. We are associating with people, the master teachers of the esoteric teaching, who have a very highly developed transcendental ontology. And this spiritual association gradually changes our ontology to resemble theirs. You will not hear this absolute truth about ontology and consciousness anywhere else. No one else is going to put away the smoke and mirrors and the marketing doublespeak and the religious stuff and tell you the plain, simple truth. Changing your consciousness is as simple as changing your ontology. So if you look at consciousness and how it actually operates, it's almost as if the body is